Hi, I'm Danielle Gallant, and I am the broker of Guardian Realty. Today, we are going to talk about what happened in court last week. So I typically go into court early so I can watch the cases and see what the judges are seeing at the time. I definitely learned a lot, and last Thursday was very, very interesting. So he had two cases right in a row with the same attorney but different landlords. And essentially the crux of the case was that the tenant had exhausted 10 months of rental assistance and had been living in the unit another 10 months without paying any rent and only had 8 months left of rental assistance. So essentially, the AB 486 requires that the landlord accepts the rental assistance. So we have this mandate, because it's not really a statute. And then we have a statute that states that a landlord's not allowed to accept partial funds and still move forward with the eviction. Well, that kind of poses a problem, especially when the courts are 4 to 6 months behind. So I'm watching the judge in Las Vegas really hem and haw between these two contradictory mandates and statute. So, and I can tell he's very uncomfortable that he has to use some judicial, oversight, so to speak, to be able to try to find a reasonable solution to this problem. So essentially the judge explained what I just explained to the attorney and the tenant, and said it's not really fair to ask the landlord to have to start all over again with the eviction process when we know 2 months of rent isn't covered by the rental assistance and the tenant currently doesn't have the rent. I can't ask the landlord to wait another 4 to 6 months for this to get onto the calendar. So his ruling was that once the landlord received the CHAPS money, to make a motion for the court to put it back on calendar if the tenant hadn't come up with the remaining months of rent that was still due, and that he would grant the eviction. So this tells me a couple things. One, we did a really poor job with AB 486 and ensuring that it coincided with current statute that is long-standing within Nevada. The other thing it tells me is that rental assistance is starting to get exhausted for folks. And, I've had a lot of landlords ask, how are people not working? Why are we still having issues with collecting rent? And we also have a labor shortage. And what I've said to everybody is, if you know that your rent's going to get paid, why would you go back to work full time or at all? You always have a roof over your head. You've got this parachute, this lifeline for rental assistance. So I think we'll start seeing things in the next 3 to 6 months with people needing and wanting to get back to work, because that rental assistance is going to be exhausted, at least here in Nevada. And then also it looks like we've got our work cut out for us coming this legislative session and really cleaning this up, because the judges really like to have a map of statute to be able to rule accordingly. And they don't really want to have to make up and kind of go outside of the lines, especially in eviction court. So I think it is some good news that we're seeing the end of this rental assistance. I'd like to be done with the paperwork and the long waiting, as I'm sure a lot of landlords would like to be. So thanks so much for listening today. I appreciate you taking the time to hear this update. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at the contact information below, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.